Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, Play the Opinion Potomac Watch Podcast. That is, Play the Opinion Potomac Watch Podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. I'm Paul Gigot on Potomac Watch with my colleagues at the Wall Street Journal, Kim Strassel, Kyle Peterson, and Bill McGurn. Kim, would Republicans have done better this year with a different candidate at the top of the ticket?
Oh, absolutely. I remain completely convinced of this. I think right now, if you had a Nikki Haley or a Ron DeSantis, a Glenn Youngkin, for instance, you'd have a candidate who was capitalizing on that anger and frustration, the dark mood, but also would potentially be able to connect a little bit better with some of those never Trumpers or independents, women, suburban moderates who simply can't tolerate Donald Trump because of his personality. And look, I mean, I spend most of my time with a lot of people. They're all going to go vote Trump, and they all recognize that nonetheless, he's a little bit of a loose cannon and that he turns people off. Now, I would note, however, that to the extent that we have Donald Trump as a candidate and Democrats are facing him, this is Democratic work. I doubt very much if they had not done the indictments that they had against him and all of what Bill just mentioned that had come before this looked like a campaign of simply trying to politically take him out. I don't know if he necessarily would have won the primary. He certainly had challengers. I still salute the people who came out to run against him. We did have a little bit of an exchange of ideas, not as much as you'd like, because Donald Trump didn't take part in any of the debates. Probably wise of his politically from his perspective. But if Democrats had not put them in this situation of being like the constant attack and the look as if they were trying to use dirty means to get him out of the race, I'm not quite sure people would have gravitated to him in the numbers that they did in that primary.
Kyle, who made the better vice presidential pick, Tim Walz or J.D. Vance, or were they both bad choices?
I would have to say that Vance is better only because Tim Walz has been worse. I think both of these picks were choices meant to please the base. There were other options. Trump could have gone with Nikki Haley, Glenn Youngkin, someone like that in an effort to unite the party. Instead, he went and doubled down on hard-nosed populism. Same with Kamala Harris. She could have gone with Josh Shapiro, a very popular governor of a swing state of Pennsylvania. If she had done so, maybe Pennsylvania wouldn't be the state everybody has their eyes on. Her last ad in Pennsylvania is featuring Josh Shapiro. There's some pretty good polling showing that his favorability is light years higher than both Harris's and Trump's in the state. She didn't do that in part because she was intimidated by the left, which doesn't like Shapiro's views on a lot of things, but Israel being a big one. And so I think that one of the differences that puts Vance over the top is just that he has been better spoken, better at answering questions, and he won that debate.
He did win the debate. I think Walz was a disastrous choice, bowing to the left. Shapiro would have really helped in Michigan and I think been a much bigger advantage for her. J.D. Vance, I still think it was a mistake, even though he's given pretty good account of himself in interviews. He is the guy who brought sort of the bro persona. We need to double down on our base. Could have been Glenn Youngkin, could have been Nikki Haley, could have been somebody else who would have appealed more broadly, particularly to women. And then, some of the folks around J.D. Vance, like Alex Brusewitz, this young internet guy, he's the one who brought in the comedian to Madison Square Garden, Tony Hinchcliffe, who called Puerto Rico a floating pile of garbage. And that's sort of the politics, Bill, that has come up with J.D. Vance. I don't think it's helped Trump.
The only thing I agreed with the others in saying, I think he acquitted himself well on the TV shows. He was able to push back on many of the biased people who interviewed him on the main shows. He gives a better intellectual accounting of Trumpism than Trump himself. But I think he suffered from a couple of things. One is a persona, as you mentioned before. Women might not have liked him. Two, he has baggage. He called Trump Hitler before, and changed his mind. So
fits right in with the Democratic critique.
Yeah, I don't think even Kamala and Joe Biden have quite called him Hitler, though they've certainly implied it. So then again, I agree with you. I think Walz was disastrous. Then again, I wonder how many people go to the polls and really vote because of the vice presidential candidate. We always get a lot of fuss over them because they're a new name in the mix, but I'm kind of doubtful they really swing an election.
Briefly, Kim, what's your best hope for the Harris presidency if she wins?
Okay.
I'll give you mine. That she uses the excuse of a Republican Senate, if we get one, to stiff-arm Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and govern more from the center, and that she picks Liz Cheney as Secretary of Defense and goes on an rearmament drive and doesn't raise taxes as much as he's promising. All pipe dreams possibly, but there you are.
Yeah, see, that's really optimism there.
I said it was a hope, not a prediction.
I would have settled for it. Look, actually, I mean, my hopes are much lower, but I would hope simply that she sticks to the things that she has disavowed since she ran in 2019. So if she continued to reject a ban on fracking, if she continued to stay away from Medicare for all, for instance, and doesn't make a move against private health insurance, my other hope would be that this election, even if it didn't teach Kamala Harris and the presidency any big lessons, is that some of those down ballot Democrats, if they squeak out a reelection, will be fearful enough for their jobs that maybe it will halt some of the progressive momentum, as you were just talking about earlier.
And Kyle Peterson, what's your best hope for the Trump presidency, briefly?
I guess my best hope for a Trump presidency would be a mirror image of what you said, which is that he sees the closeness of this election and goes back into the Oval Office and tries to pitch to the middle and listens to Republicans who are still in Congress. We're going to have a fight over extending his own tax reform bill, some of which he has now repudiated, but he'll need Republicans in Congress to pass whatever tax bill is going to be drawn up. And let's hope that he listens to the ideas that they bring to the table.
All right, we're going to end it there this Monday before the election. We are here every day on Potomac Watch. And tomorrow will be election day, but Wednesday, big day as we parse the results of the election. We may not get a clear victor then in the presidential race, but we'll certainly know a lot more than we do today. Thank you all for listening. I'm Paul Gigot.